I never planned on becoming my husband's boss. But then again, he never planned on me discovering the offshore account where he'd hidden our retirement savings, the same account funding his girlfriend's luxury condo in Malibu. Life has a way of surprising us both. I'd love to know which corner of the globe you're watching from. And if this story speaks to you, make sure to subscribe. Tomorrow's video is one you absolutely can't miss. The Boston skyline gleamed outside my corner office as I signed the final acquisition paperwork. In 24 hours, Jack would arrive at work to discover his new supervisor was the same woman whose financial expertise he'd dismissed for 8 years of marriage. The same woman told me to stick to your nonprofit work and let me handle our investments, with that condescending smile whenever I questioned his decisions. I traced my finger over the embossed letterhead of Harrington Wealth Management, now officially a subsidiary of Eastwood Financial Group, my company. It had taken 5 months of meticulous planning, leveraging connections he never knew I had, and resources he never suspected I possessed. Jack had drained our life savings to fund his Mistress, never imagining he would end up working for me. The morning started like any other Thursday in May. Sunlight streamed through the kitchen windows of our Beacon Hill brownstone, warming the marble countertops Jack had insisted we upgrade last year despite the astronomical cost. "We deserve the best, Rebecca," he'd said, his arm around my waist as the designer showed us samples. "We've worked hard to get here." We had worked hard. 12 years of marriage building our lives in Boston with the singular focus of creating financial security neither of us had growing up. Jack, with his finance degree from Cornell, had climbed the ranks at Harrington Wealth Management, while I'd built my own career in strategic development at Eastwood Financial Group. I poured my coffee and scrolled through emails on my tablet. 4 messages from my executive assistant about the upcoming leadership retreat, one from my sister asking about 4th of July plans, and a notification from our joint credit card, a charge for $7,800 at Tiffany's in Los Angeles. Los Angeles? Jack was supposed to be at a wealth management conference in New York. I frowned, checking the date. Yesterday at 3:15 p.m. I texted Jack, "How's the conference going?" His response came quickly. Exhausting. Back-to-back panels on regulatory changes. "Miss you." I stared at his text, an uneasy feeling settling in my stomach. I checked the credit card notification again. It wasn't an error. "Focus on the facts," I whispered to myself, a mantra I'd developed over years of handling corporate acquisitions. Emotions clouded judgment. Facts created clarity. Fact: a substantial jewelry purchase in Los Angeles while Jack claimed to be in New York. I set my coffee down and pulled up our account dashboard on my tablet. There were several recent transactions I didn't recognize. A recurring charge to something called Pacific View Properties for $9,400 monthly, 3 payments to American Airlines for flights between Boston and Los Angeles, and a $98,000 charge to a high-end furniture store in Malibu. 12 years of marriage, and I'd never once suspected Jack of being unfaithful. We had what I considered a strong partnership, perhaps not burning with passion after all these years, but built on mutual respect and shared goals. We were saving for early retirement, planning to buy a vacation home in Vermont in 2 years. When we turned 45, I closed the banking app and opened my calendar. My meeting at Eastwood wasn't for another 2 hours. I had time. First, I called the credit card company, posing a simple question. Was there a mistake with the Los Angeles charge? The representative confirmed it was processed in person, chip, and PIN used. Next, I called the hotel in New York, where the financial conference was being held. "I'm trying to leave an urgent message for my husband, Jack Harrington. He's attending the National Wealth Management Forum," I explained. "One moment, let me check our guest list," the receptionist replied. After a brief pause, "I'm sorry, but we don't have anyone registered under that name." "He's definitely there," I insisted. "The conference started yesterday and runs through..." Friday. Ma'am, we are hosting that conference, but there's no Jack Harrington registered either with the hotel or the conference itself. Perhaps he's staying elsewhere. I thanked her and ended the call, my hands perfectly steady despite the tremor I felt inside. Jack and I had separate careers but shared everything else. Our finances were transparent, or so I believed. We consulted each other on major purchases. We had quarterly financial summits, where we reviewed our investment portfolio, updated our 5-year plan, and adjusted our budget. It was Jack who insisted on this structure. No financial secrets between us, he'd say. That's how marriages get into trouble. The irony wasn't lost on me. I opened my laptop and logged into our investment accounts. Everything appeared normal. At first glance, our retirement accounts, stock portfolio, real estate investments. But something nagged at me. The total balance seemed lower than I remembered from our last quarterly review. I pulled up the spreadsheet Jack had prepared 3 months ago. According to his summary, our total investments should be approximately $2.1 million. The current balance showed just under $1.2 million, nearly half of our life savings was gone. My heart pounded as I dug deeper, pulling up transaction histories and transfer records. Over the past 7 months, Jack had been systematically moving funds from our joint investment accounts to an external bank I didn't recognize, Coastal Island Banking, with an account number that wasn't connected to any of our established accounts. Grabbed my phone and called Melissa Wright, my closest friend since business school, and now the chief legal officer at Eastwood Financial. I need a favor, I said when she answered. A personal one. Completely confidential. You sound serious. Becca, everything okay? I'm not sure. Can you help me track down information about a bank? Coastal Island Banking? I need to know where they're based, their regulatory status, and if possible, details about a specific account. That's not a small ask, Melissa replied carefully. Is this related to an Eastwood matter? No, it's personal. I can't explain everything right now, but I think Jack has been moving our savings into an account I don't have access to. The silence on the other end stretched for a moment. Come to my office. This isn't a conversation on the phone. An hour later, I sat across from Melissa in her corner office at Eastwood Financial Group's headquarters, the Boston skyline creating a dramatic backdrop to our conversation. I'd laid out everything I'd discovered. The credit card charges, the missing conference, the transferred investments. Melissa leaned back in her chair, fingers steepled beneath her chin. Coastal Island Banking is a private offshore bank based in the Cayman Islands. They specialize in high-net-worth clients who value discretion. Offshore? I repeated. Jack had always been conservative with our investments, favoring established domestic institutions. That doesn't sound like Jack. People surprise us, Melissa said simply, especially when they're hiding something. Can you find out anything about the specific account? Melissa hesitated. Legally speaking, I shouldn't, but I have contacts. She studied me for a moment. Becca, are you prepared for what you might find? Because once you start pulling this thread, I need to know, I said firmly. If Jack is hiding our money offshore while lying about his whereabouts, I need to understand what I'm dealing with. Okay, Melissa nodded. Give me a day or two. In the meantime, don't confront him. Don't change your routine. If he's hiding something significant, tipping your hand could make things more complicated. Zi agreed and stood to leave, my mind already racing with contingency plans. Rebecca, Melissa called as I reached the door. Whatever's happening, remember you have allies. Don't try to handle everything alone. I managed a small smile. I won't. And Melissa? Thank you. Back at my desk, I stared at my computer screen without seeing it. The quarterly strategy meeting would start in 20 minutes, but strategy was the furthest thing from my mind. My thoughts kept returning to the missing. Money, the Los Angeles charges, the lies about New York. Ryan knocked gently on my door. The executive team is gathering in the conference room. Do you need anything before we start? I straightened in my chair. Actually, yes. Can you pull everything we have on Harrington Wealth Management? They were on our potential acquisition list last year, but we tabled it. Ryan looked surprised. The boutique firm in Back Bay, I thought we decided they were too small to bother with. I'm reconsidering. Please have the files ready after the board meeting. And Ryan, this is confidential. For now. So a lot of love and effort went into bringing this story to life. If you're enjoying it, we'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe to our channel. Now back to where we left off. After he left, I took a deep breath and centered myself. The board. Meeting needed my full attention, regardless of my personal crisis. I could compartmentalize. It was one of my strengths, the ability to focus on the task at hand while processing complex problems in the background. The meeting proceeded as expected. Quarterly results, strategic initiatives, competitive analysis. I delivered my report with practiced precision, giving no indication that my personal life was imploding. CEO Nathan Richardson gave me an approving nod as I concluded my presentation on potential acquisition targets. Excellent work as always, Rebecca. Your ability to identify undervalued assets continues to impress the board. If only he knew how personally relevant that skill had suddenly become. When I returned to my office, Ryan had assembled a comprehensive file on Harrington Wealth Management. Founded 25 years ago, the firm managed approximately $950 million in assets across a predominantly wealthy client base. Their performance was solid, if unspectacular. Jack had been with them for 10 years, working his way up to senior advisor with a client portfolio worth approximately $180 million. What caught my attention, however, was buried in their corporate structure. The founder, William Harrington, had been gradually reducing his ownership stake as part of his retirement strategy. The firm was now 51% owned by a holding company called Bridgeport Partners, with the remaining 49% distributed among senior partners, including an 8% stake held by Jack. Ryan, I called. What do we know about Bridgeport Partners? He appeared in my doorway. Not much in our files. They're a private investment group that acquired controlling interest in Harrington about 3 years ago. Would you like me to dig deeper? Please find out who owns Bridgeport Partners. As Ryan left, my phone buzzed with a text from Jack. Flight delayed. Might not get home until after midnight. Don't wait up. I stared at the message, wondering where he actually was and who he was with. The Jack I thought I knew, practical, methodical, risk-averse, seemed increasingly like a stranger. By late afternoon, Melissa called. I have information, she said without preamble. My contact at Coastal Island confirms the account exists and was opened 8 months ago. The primary signatory is Jack Harrington. And the balance? I asked, bracing myself. Current balance is just over $860,000. I closed my eyes. Nearly $1 million, our money, sitting in an offshore account I hadn't known existed. There's more, Melissa continued. There's a secondary address associated with the account, a property in Malibu, and regular transfers to someone named Natalie Carson. Who is Natalie Carson? I'm sending you what I found, Melissa replied. But Becca, she's a 31-year-old marketing executive in Los Angeles, very active on social media. My computer pinged with Melissa's email. I opened it to find several social media screenshots. A beautiful young woman with flowing auburn hair and a dazzling smile. In one photo, she stood in front of a luxury condo building, keys in hand with a new home caption. In another, she lounged by an infinity pool, sunglasses perched on her nose and champagne flute in hand. I scrolled through the images with clinical detachment until I reached one that made my breath catch. Natalie standing close to a man, his arm wrapped around her waist, both of them laughing at something off camera. The man's face was partially turned away, but I would recognize my husband's profile anywhere. The photo was tagged, "Weekend getaway with my love." I'll call you back, I told Melissa, and ended the call. Minutes later, Ryan knocked on my door again. I found information on Bridgeport Partners, he said, handing me a folder. It's a subsidiary of Eastwood Financial. I stared at him. What specifically? It's part of our private equity division's portfolio. We acquired majority ownership of Harrington Wealth Management 3 years ago through Bridgeport. It's one of our quiet holdings. We maintain the original branding and management structure while implementing our growth strategies behind the scenes. I opened the folder with suddenly unsteady hands. There it was, in black and white. Harrington Wealth Management was already owned by Eastwood Financial Group, my company. Jack worked for a subsidiary of the firm where I served as chief strategy officer, and he had no idea. The information hit me with stunning clarity. For years, Jack had dismissed my career as less significant than his own. I manage real money, Becca, he'd say. Millions of dollars in investments. You just push paper and make presentations. He'd never bothered to understand what my role at Eastwood actually entailed or the scale of operations I helped direct. Now he was stealing our savings to fund a relationship with a younger woman, all while technically being my employee, as reality sank in. A strange calm settled over me. This wasn't just about infidelity or stolen money. This was about years of condescension, of having my intelligence and capabilities subtly undermined by the man who was supposed to be my partner. I picked up my phone and called Nathan Richardson's direct line. Nathan, it's Rebecca. I need to discuss something important regarding Harrington Wealth Management. Are you available for dinner tonight? Harrington? I thought we backburnered that acquisition. We did, I replied. But I believe it's time for a more hands-on management approach. I ended the call and looked out at the Boston skyline, watching as office lights began to illuminate against the darkening sky. Jack thought he was so clever, hiding money offshore, building a secret life with his mistress in Los Angeles. He had no idea what was coming. For the first time since discovering Tiffany's charge that morning, I smiled. Jack had spent our life savings on his mistress. He was about to discover exactly who he'd been underestimating all these years. The upscale Italian restaurant Nathan had chosen for our dinner meeting buzzed with the quiet energy of Boston's business elite. We were seated in a private alcove. Near the back, afforded both discretion and a view of the entire dining room. I've ordered the Barolo, Nathan said as I slid into my seat. At 58, Eastwood Financial Group's CEO radiated the confidence of someone who had spent decades making decisions that shaped companies and careers. His salt and pepper hair was impeccably groomed, his charcoal suit tailored to perfection. Now tell me why we're suddenly interested in Harrington Wealth Management again. I took a measured breath. I need to disclose a personal conflict of interest first. My husband, Jack Harrington, is a senior advisor at Harrington. Nathan's eyebrows rose slightly. I wasn't aware of that connection. It's never been relevant to my work at Eastwood. We've maintained professional separation. The sommelier arrived with the wine, giving me a moment to gather my thoughts as Nathan went through the ritual of tasting and approving it. When we were alone again, I continued. This morning, I discovered Jack has been systematically transferring our personal savings, nearly $1 million, to an offshore account I had no knowledge of. Nathan's expression remained neutral, but his eyes sharpened with interest. Go on. The money appears to be funding a lifestyle in Los Angeles with a woman named Natalie Carson. He's been lying about business trips, using our joint funds to maintain what looks like a second relationship. I'm sorry, Rebecca. That's a difficult discovery. Nathan took a sip of his wine. But I'm not clear on how this relates to Eastwood's interest in Harrington Wealth Management. Because when I started investigating today, I discovered something I didn't know before, that Harrington is already majority owned by Eastwood through Bridgeport Partners. A slight smile played at the corner of Nathan's mouth. Yes, one of several quiet acquisitions we made before you joined the executive team. We maintain the original branding and management structure while implementing growth strategies behind the scenes. Which means, I continued. Jack effectively works for me, though he doesn't know it. Nathan studied me for a long moment. And now you're thinking about making that relationship more explicit, I nodded. I want to initiate a strategic restructuring of Harrington Wealth Management, officially bringing it under Eastwood's direct management rather than operating through Bridgeport Partners. That's a significant shift from our current approach with Harrington, Nathan noted. Purely from a business perspective, what's the advantage? Harrington has solid fundamentals but lackluster growth. Their client acquisition rate has stagnated for 3 years, and their investment strategies are overly conservative. With direct oversight, we could modernize their approach, integrate their client base with our broader services, and increase revenue by at least 25% within 18 months. Nathan nodded slowly. A reasonable assessment, and the personal angle? Zi met his gaze directly. Jack has been condescending about my career for years, while systematically stealing our joint savings. Learning that he's actually been my employee all along provides an opportunity to correct both situations simultaneously. Nathan's laugh was brief, but genuine. Poetic justice has its appeal. He swirled his wine thoughtfully. The board will need a business case focused solely on Harrington's potential under direct management. Can you prepare that by Monday? It's already in progress. Good. Now, he leaned forward slightly. Let's discuss your personal situation. Have you consulted with a divorce attorney? Not yet. I'm gathering evidence first. Smart. When you're ready, Lauren Blackwell at Morgan & Associates is excellent. Handled my first divorce with remarkable efficiency. Nathan's expression softened slightly. This is undoubtedly painful, Rebecca. But from what I've observed over the years, you possess a rare clarity under pressure. Don't lose that. I won't, I promised. As for the restructuring, I'll support your proposal to the board if the numbers make sense. Just be certain you can separate the professional execution from the personal satisfaction. Absolutely, I assured him, though privately I wondered if such separation was truly possible. The lines between my personal and professional lives had already been blurred without my knowledge. After dinner, I declined Nathan's offer of a ride home. Instead, I found myself driving toward Back Bay, not to my house, but to Harrington Wealth Management's offices. The 7-story building was mostly dark at this hour, with only security lighting illuminating the lobby. I parked across the street and gazed up at the floor where Jack's office was located. How many calls to Natalie had he made from that office? How many times had he transferred our money while sitting at his desk? The thoughts should have sparked anger, but instead I felt a curious detachment, as if I were analyzing a particularly complex business problem rather than the dissolution of my marriage. My phone buzzed with a text from Jack. Just landed in Boston, grabbing an Uber home. See you in the morning. I didn't reply. Instead, I pulled up the photos Melissa had sent me of Natalie Carson and studied them more carefully. In one image, she stood in front of a luxury condo building I recognized as the Ocean View in Malibu, likely the source of those mysterious Pacific View Properties payments on our credit card. Another search revealed that units at the Ocean View started at $2.3 million. Had Jack purchased a property there, or was he renting? Either way, the financial commitment was substantial, far more than the occasional hotel tryst would require. This wasn't just an affair. This was a parallel life being built with my money. Drove home, arriving shortly before midnight. I parked in the garage and silently entered through the mudroom, not wanting to wake Jack if he was already asleep. The house was dark and quiet, with only the subtle glow of the security system panel providing illumination. I moved through the kitchen toward the stairs when a sound from Jack's home office caught my attention. The soft click of a closing drawer. Pausing, I saw light spilling from beneath the door. He was awake and in his office at midnight. I hesitated, then made a decision. Maintaining normalcy was crucial until I had my full strategy in place. I knocked gently on the office door. "Jack? You're home." A moment of silence, then. "Come in, Becca." I pushed open the door to find Jack at his desk, his laptop open before him. He looked tired, his normally perfect appearance slightly rumpled from travel, or what he wanted me to believe was travel. "How was New York?" I asked, leaning against the doorframe rather than entering fully. "Exhausting." The conference consisted of back-to-back sessions. He ran a hand through his hair. "Sorry I'm home so late. The flight was delayed." "No problem. I had a late dinner with Nathan anyway." "Work stuff." Jack nodded vaguely, clearly not interested in the details of my workday. "Anything exciting happen while I was gone?" The calm that had settled over me earlier remained intact. It was almost fascinating to watch him lie so effortlessly. "Nothing special," I replied. "Just the usual meetings." I started to turn away, then paused. "Oh, there was a notification from the credit card company. Something about unusual activity. Did you get that too?" The briefest flicker of tension crossed his face before his expression smoothed again. "Yeah, I saw that. Some mix-up. With a conference expense. I already called them to sort it out. It's great," I said. "Good night, then." "Night, Becca." I closed the door and stood motionless in the hallway for a moment, listening. I heard the subtle sound of a drawer opening again, then closing. What was he hiding in there? Upstairs in our bedroom, I moved through my nighttime routine mechanically, my mind racing with questions and plans. I needed more information about Jack's financial maneuvers, about Natalie, about the property in Malibu. Most importantly, I needed to understand exactly how deep the betrayal went. Sleep seemed impossible, but I made myself lie down, staring at the ceiling as I awaited Jack's arrival. Nearly an hour passed before I heard his footsteps on the stairs. The bathroom light clicked on, and I heard the sounds of his nighttime routine: brushing teeth, running water, the quiet thud of clothes going into the hamper. When he finally slipped into bed beside me, I kept my breathing deep and even, pretending to be asleep. He didn't reach for me, didn't whisper goodnight as he sometimes did when coming to bed late. Instead, he turned away immediately, maintaining the invisible barrier that had been growing between us for months. A barrier I had attributed to work stress or midlife malaise, never suspecting its true cause. Morning came too quickly. I rose, at my usual 5:30 a.m., careful not to wake Jack as I dressed for my morning run. This daily routine had been part of my life for years, 6 miles through the quiet streets of Beacon Hill as the city slowly awakened around me. Today, however, I altered my route slightly to include a pass by the Harrington office building. As I jogged past, I noticed the lights were already on in several offices despite the early hour. A familiar car caught my eye in the parking garage entrance, Thomas Mitchell's silver Tesla. Thomas was Harrington's operations director and, according to the organizational charts I'd reviewed yesterday, one of the minority partners who held equity in the firm alongside Jack. On impulse, I stopped my run and entered the building. The security guard recognized me from previous company events. "Good morning, Mrs. Harrington. Early start today?" "Morning, Steve. Is Thomas Mitchell already?" "Yes, ma'am. Been here since about 5 a.m. Said something about quarterly reports." I nodded. "Thanks. I'll just surprise him with some coffee on my way to the gym." I stopped at the small cafe in the lobby, purchasing 2 large coffees before taking the elevator to the 4th floor. Thomas's corner office door was open, his desk covered with spreadsheets and file folders. At 60, Thomas was nearing retirement, a fact that Jack had mentioned several times in recent months, usually in the context of partnership redistribution, opportunities. With his neatly trimmed white beard and perpetually concerned expression, Thomas looked every bit the conservative financial advisor clients trusted with their life savings. "Coffee delivery," I announced from his doorway. Thomas looked up, surprised. Rebecca, what brings you here at this hour? And in running clothes, no less? I smiled, setting a coffee on his desk. Jogging past and saw the lights on. Thought someone might need caffeine. You're a saint, he said gratefully, taking a long sip. These quarterly compliance reviews will be the death of me. I perched on the edge of a visitor chair. Sounds tedious. Jack mentioned you might be thinking about retirement soon. Is that still the plan? Thomas's expression clouded slightly. That's the rumor, apparently, though I haven't made any definitive announcements. Oh? Jack seemed to think it was decided. Did he now? Thomas's tone sharpened. Interesting, considering I've only had preliminary discussions with William about succession planning. William Harrington, the founder who still maintained a presence despite reducing his ownership stake. I filed away this discrepancy for later consideration. I'm sure he was just getting ahead of himself, I said lightly. You know Jack, always planning 3 steps ahead. Indeed. Thomas took another sip of coffee. How are things at Eastwood? Still climbing the corporate ladder? Steady as ever. I glanced at my watch. I should get going. Meetings start at 8:01 sharp. I stood to leave, then paused. Actually, Thomas, I've been meaning to ask. Do you know if Harrington works with any clients in Los Angeles, specifically in real estate? Thomas looked thoughtful. We have a few clients with property investments in Southern California, but no significant concentration there. Why do you ask? Just curious. A friend is looking at properties in that area, and I wondered if Jack might have connections there. Not that I'm aware of. Our West Coast clients are primarily handled by our Seattle office. Jack's portfolio is almost exclusively Northeast-based, with a few in Chicago. Interesting. Thanks, Thomas. Enjoy the coffee. As I left Harrington Wealth Management, I added this new information to my mental file. Jack's activities in Los Angeles weren't connected to Harrington's client base, which meant the deception extended beyond our personal finances into his professional representations as well. Back at home, I showered and dressed for work, selecting a crisp navy suit that projected authority without seeking attention. Jack was in the kitchen when I came downstairs, sipping coffee and scrolling through news on his tablet. Morning, he said absently. Morning. Early run, I replied, pouring myself coffee. Usual Thursday. He nodded without looking up. I'll be late tonight. Quarterly client reviews all day, then dinner with the Sutton account. Another lie, delivered. Without hesitation. I wondered if he was actually going to be in the office at all, or if he had plans to contact Natalie. I needed to know more about his schedule, his communications with her, his plans for our money. No problem, I said. I've got a strategy session that might run late anyway. We moved around each other in the kitchen with the practiced choreography of a long married couple, passing the cream, sharing the toaster, avoiding substantive conversation. The familiarity of it felt surreal given what I now knew. Jack, I said as I gathered my briefcase, I was thinking about our quarterly financial review. It's coming up next week, right? He glanced up, a flicker of something, alarm, annoyance, crossing his face. Is it that time already? Things have been so busy I haven't prepared the usual reports. That's fine, I said easily. I can get started. What's the password for the Schwab account again? I always forget. I'll handle it, Becca, he said, his tone taking on that slightly patronizing quality I'd grown accustomed to. No need for you to worry about that right now. I'll have everything ready by next weekend, if you're sure. I just thought with your busy schedule, I'll handle it. His tone was sharper now. Besides, there have been some adjustments to our portfolio. It would be confusing without the proper context. Adjustments. That was one way to describe the systematic draining of our accounts. Whatever you think best, I conceded, watching him relax slightly at my acquiescence. Have a good day with your clients. At Eastwood Financial, I spent the morning assembling the business case for Harrington Wealth Management's restructuring. The company's client base was solid but stagnant. Their investment methodologies sound but conservative to the point of underperformance. Most importantly, their organizational structure was top-heavy with redundant management positions, including, I noted with grim satisfaction, Jack's role as senior advisor. "Ryan," I called to my assistant mid-morning, "can you get me Harrington Wealth Management's employee performance reviews for the past 2 years? Focus on the advisory team, through Bridgeport's records." "Yes, and I'll need their client retention statistics broken down by the advisor." While Ryan gathered that information, I placed a call to Lauren Blackwell at Morgan & Associates, the divorce attorney Nathan had recommended. "Ms. Blackwell's office," a professional voice answered. "This is Rebecca Harrington, Chief Strategy Officer at Eastwood Financial Group. Nathan Richardson suggested I speak with Ms. Blackwell about a private matter." "Of course, Ms. Harrington. Ms. Blackwell has an opening tomorrow at 7 a.m. Would that work for you?" An early meeting would be perfect. I could attend without disrupting my work schedule or alerting Jack. "That's perfect. Thank you." Next, I called Melissa. "I need more information about Natalie Carson and the property in Malibu," I said when she answered. "Specifically, whether Jack has purchased real estate there or is leasing, and what financial arrangements exist between them." "I've already started digging," Melissa replied. "Property records show a condo at the Ocean View purchased 6 months ago by an LLC called Sunset Horizon Ventures. Natalie Carson is listed as the property manager, but the beneficial owner of the LLC is hidden behind layers of corporate structure leading back to the Cayman account. Most likely. I'm still tracing the connections." "There's something else you should know," she continued. "Natalie Carson isn't just a random marketing executive. She specializes in client relations for Platinum Image Partners, one of the largest celebrity management firms in Los Angeles. So, she has access to wealthy clients herself," I mused. "Exactly. And according to social media, she travels frequently between LA, New York, and Miami. Always first class, always at high-end venues. An expensive lifestyle that would benefit significantly from regular infusions of cash." I processed this information, adding it to my growing understanding of Jack's deception. "Keep digging, Melissa. I need to understand the full financial picture before I make my next move." After ending the call, I stared out my office window at the Boston skyline. The pieces were starting to form a clearer pattern, but significant. Questions remained. How long had Jack been planning this? Was Natalie just an affair? Or was there a deeper scheme involving my money? And most pressing, how much more would he try to take before I stopped him? My intercom buzzed. "I have those performance reviews you requested," Ryan announced. "And there's something interesting in the client retention data." "Bring it in," I replied, turning my attention to the next phase of gathering evidence. The clearer the picture became, the more devastating and comprehensive my response would be. "These client retention figures are fascinating," I said, scanning the reports Ryan had provided. "Jack has the highest initial acquisition rate among Harrington's advisors, but his 3-year retention is the lowest by a significant margin." Ryan nodded. "I thought that stood out too. He brings in new clients successfully, but they tend to leave within 24-36 months. I studied the pattern more closely. Do we know where these clients go after leaving Harrington?" "Not specifically, but according to exit interviews, most cite seeking more aggressive growth strategies as their reason for leaving." This information created an interesting picture. Jack excelled at acquiring wealthy clients, but couldn't maintain those relationships long-term. Was there a connection between this pattern and his activities with Natalie Carson? My phone rang. Jack's office line. "Rebecca Harrington," I answered professionally, as I always did during business hours. "Hey, it's me," Jack said. "I forgot to mention William Harrington invited us to his annual charity gala on Saturday. Black tie at the Fairmont Copley Plaza. Can you make it?" The Harrington Wealth Management Charity Gala was a significant event in Boston's financial community, drawing wealthy clients and industry influencers. Jack had always viewed it as an important networking opportunity. This Saturday? That's short notice. I know, but William specifically mentioned hoping you'd attend. Something about introducing you to some of his connections. That was unusual. While I'd met William Harrington several times over the years, he'd never shown particular interest in my professional network. I'll check my calendar, I replied neutrally. Speaking of connections, I ran into Thomas Mitchell this morning. He seemed surprised when I mentioned his retirement plans. A brief silence. You saw Thomas? Where? I stopped by Harrington on my morning run to get coffee. The building was open. What were you doing there? Just being friendly? I kept my tone light. Anyway, Thomas seemed to think you were jumping the gun on his retirement plans. Thomas worries too much, Jack dismissed. He's been talking about retiring for years. It's practically a running joke in the office. If you say so. Let me check about Saturday and I'll let you know. After hanging up, I turned back to the reports, but my mind was processing this new information. Jack was pushing a narrative about Thomas's retirement that Thomas himself disputed. Why? The intercom buzzed. Ms. Harrington, Lauren Blackwell from Morgan and Associates are online too. I hadn't expected to hear from the attorney until our meeting tomorrow. Lauren, thank you for calling back so quickly. I wanted to touch base before our meeting, she replied, her voice crisp and efficient. Nathan Richardson briefed me generally on your situation, and I think we should discuss immediate asset protection measures. I've been gathering evidence before taking any legal steps. A prudent approach, but there are non-confrontational actions we can take immediately to prevent further asset dissipation. Would you be willing to bring financial documentation to our meeting tomorrow? Of course. What specifically should I bring? Account statements, property deeds, evidence of the offshore transfers if you have them, and any documentation of your husband's relationship with this other woman. I'll have everything prepared. Excellent. In the meantime, I'll draft emergency motions to freeze contested assets pending court review. We won't file them immediately, but having them ready provides options should the situation escalate. After ending the call, I received a text from Melissa. Found something. The Azure LLC received a wire transfer yesterday for $210,000 from your joint Fidelity account. Call me. My pulse quickened as I dialed her number. He's moving more money. I thought our joint investment accounts were already depleted. This came from your emergency fund portfolio. The one you mentioned was earmarked for potential health crises or family emergencies. I closed my eyes briefly. The emergency fund had been my idea, setting aside money that would remain untouched, except in dire circumstances. Jack had initially resisted, calling it unnecessarily cautious. Now I understand why. There's more, Melissa continued. Natalie Carson booked first-class tickets to Barbados for next Friday. 2 passengers, round trip. 7 nights at the Sandy, Lane Resort and a luxury oceanfront suite. A getaway with my money, I said, a cold anger settling in my chest, while I'm supposedly reviewing our quarterly finances at home. It gets worse. I've been tracing the financial connections between them, and it appears they've established a joint venture called Elite Lifestyle Management. According to their business filing, they provide exclusive lifestyle enhancement and investment opportunities for select high-net-worth individuals. What does that even mean? Based on bank transactions, they appear to be soliciting investments from wealthy individuals for exclusive opportunities, primarily luxury real estate and high-end lifestyle ventures. Several of the names match former Harrington clients, who left within the past 2 years. The pattern suddenly became clear. He's using his position at Harrington to identify wealthy clients, then directing them toward investment opportunities with Natalie once they leave the firm. Exactly, and they're collecting substantial fees for these placements. Fees that go directly to the Cayman account, not through proper business channels. This wasn't just about an affair or stolen money. This was potentially fraud, using his Professional position to channel clients into unsanctioned investments for personal gain. I need to speak with Nathan immediately, I told Melissa. This changes everything. Within 30 minutes, I was seated in Nathan Richardson's office with Melissa and Eastwood's Chief Compliance Officer, David Sullivan. I laid out everything. We'd discovered the offshore account, the property in Malibu, Jack and Natalie's elite lifestyle management venture, and the pattern of Harrington clients being redirected to their private investments. David Sullivan's expression grew increasingly grave. If Harrington advisors are directing clients to unauthorized investments and receiving undisclosed compensation, that's a clear violation of SEC regulations. It could trigger a regulatory investigation of the entire firm, which would impact Eastwood as the parent company, Nathan noted, his fingers steepled beneath his chin. Exactly, David confirmed. Regulatory investigations don't remain neatly contained. We need to implement a firewall strategy immediately. I've already been preparing the restructuring proposal for Harrington, I said. We could accelerate the timeline, bringing it under direct Eastwood management while simultaneously addressing any compliance issues. Nathan nodded thoughtfully. We'd need to identify all potentially affected clients, conduct internal reviews, and prepare for possible self-reporting to regulators, all while managing the public messaging to protect both brands, David added. There's another factor to consider, Melissa interjected. The Harrington Charity Gala this Saturday? William Harrington specifically requested Rebecca's presence. Nathan turned to me. Is William aware of your role at Eastwood? He knows I work here, but I doubt he understands my position in relation to Harrington's ownership structure. Jack has always downplayed my career. This could be an opportunity, Nathan decided. I'll attend the gala with you. We can approach William about accelerating the integration of Harrington into Eastwood's direct management structure. Frame it as a strategic enhancement rather than a crisis response. What about Jack? Melissa asked. For now, we maintain normal appearances, I replied. He doesn't know what we've discovered about elite lifestyle management. I want to understand the full extent of the scheme before confronting him. Agreed, Nathan said. Rebecca worked with David to prepare a comprehensive compliance review of Harrington's client base. Melissa, continue tracking the financial connections. I want complete documentation before we make any public moves. And the emergency fund transfer? I asked. I can have that frozen by the end of day, David offered. A routine compliance review flag won't immediately alert Jack, but will prevent further withdrawals. As the meeting concluded, Nathan held me back momentarily. This is no longer just about your personal situation, Rebecca. If Jack is involved in client-facing improprieties while working for a firm Eastwood controls, we have regulatory obligations that supersede marital considerations. I understand completely, I assured him. My priority is protecting Eastwood and Harrington's legitimate clients. The personal elements will be handled separately. Back in my office, I methodically documented everything we knew about Jack and Natalie's operations, creating a detailed timeline of account transfers, client movements, and business formations. The picture emerging was troubling. What had started as a personal betrayal was revealing itself as a calculated scheme to exploit wealthy clients. My intercom buzzed. Ms. Harrington, there's a call for you on line 1. Ms. Natalie Carson, I stared at the intercom in disbelief. Natalie was calling me? At my office? Put her through, I said, quickly activating the call recording feature on my desk phone, a standard practice for all executive calls at Eastwood. This is Rebecca Harrington. Ms. Harrington, thank you for taking my call. Her voice was smooth and confident, with a slight Southern accent. I hope I'm not interrupting your day. Not at all, Ms. Carson. What can I do for you? I think we may have some business interests in common. I'm developing a luxury lifestyle initiative that might complement Eastwood's wealth management services. So that was her play, approaching me professionally to establish a legitimate connection that could later provide cover for her relationship with Jack. Clever. That sounds intriguing, I replied neutrally. Though I wonder why you're approaching me directly rather than through our business development team. A slight pause. I believe in connecting with decision makers. Your reputation at Eastwood is impressive. How did you learn about my position? I asked, knowing full well Jack had always minimized my role. I make it my business to research potential partners thoroughly, she replied smoothly. Your strategic acquisitions at Eastwood show remarkable foresight. Including Harrington Wealth Management? I asked, testing her knowledge. Another pause. Longer this time. I wasn't aware Eastwood had acquired Harrington. Interesting. Either she was lying, or Jack had kept that information from her as well. It's not widely publicized, I replied. We maintain operational separation for strategic reasons. I see, she said, her tone shifting slightly. Then your husband reports to Eastwood ultimately. That creates an interesting dynamic. Business and personal relationships often develop unexpected connections, Ms. Carson. Something I'm sure you appreciate. The implicit message wasn't lost on her. Perhaps we should meet in person to discuss further. I'll be in Boston this weekend for a charity event. The Harrington Gala? What a coincidence. I'll be attending as well. Perfect, she replied, maintaining her composure. I look forward to meeting you in person, Ms. Harrington. After ending the call, I sat back in my chair, processing this unexpected development. Natalie contacting me directly indicated either remarkable confidence or worrying desperation. Either way, it confirmed my suspicion that Jack and Natalie's operation was accelerating. I forwarded the recorded call to Melissa with a brief note. She's coming to the gala. I want to establish a business connection with me. Does she know about Jack's position at Harrington in relation to Eastwood? Melissa's response came minutes later. Checking her research history now. We'll have answers by the end of day. My desk phone rang again. Atlantic Trust Bank, our primary financial institution. Ms. Harrington, this is Michael Bennett from Atlantic Trust's Verification Department. I'm calling regarding a wire transfer request we received today. So what wire transfer? A request to transfer $180,000 from your joint investment account to an external bank. Our system flagged it due to the size of the transaction. Jack was moving more money today, after I'd mentioned our upcoming financial review. I didn't authorize any transfer, I said firmly. Who's listed as the author on the request? It appears to be signed by Jack Harrington as a joint account holder. He provided all the necessary authentication. Please freeze that transfer immediately, I instructed. In fact, I need all transactions from that account to require dual authentication effective immediately. Of course, Ms. Harrington, we can implement that security measure right away. Would you like to place a temporary freeze on all your joint accounts until this is resolved? Yes, please, and I'll need to come in personally to review recent transactions. After ending the call, I sat motionless, absorbing this new development. Jack was accelerating his timeline, moving quickly to extract more funds. What had triggered this urgency? My question about our financial review? My appearance at his office? Building? My conversation with Thomas Mitchell? Or had Natalie pushed for more capital for their business ventures? I needed to confront Jack, but strategically, with enough information to prevent further denials, but not so much that he understood the full extent of my knowledge. I messaged Melissa, need to meet, new developments. Her response was immediate. My office, 30 minutes. In Melissa's office, I laid out the latest information, Jack's attempt to transfer more money, the connection to Thomas Mitchell's potential retirement, and Natalie's unexpected call. The timing suggests Jack is preparing for something significant, I concluded. Possibly using my money to increase his ownership stake at Harrington, or perhaps planning to leave Boston entirely for the West Coast. Melissa nodded thoughtfully. My sources have uncovered more about Natalie Carson. She and Jack have known each other for approximately 16 months. They met at a wealth management conference in Los Angeles where she was representing celebrity clients to financial advisors. A business connection initially. Then what? Exactly. But there's more. Natalie has been linked romantically to several wealthy clients in the past, including a hedge fund manager who was later charged with investment fraud. She wasn't implicated legally, but there were questions about her knowledge of his activities. So she has a pattern of relationships with men who can financially benefit her, I noted. What about her connection to Jack professionally? Is there evidence they're working together beyond the personal relationship? That's where it gets interesting, Melissa replied, turning her computer screen to show me a document. Elite Lifestyle Management has a client referral program that pays substantial commissions for bringing in investors for their exclusive opportunities. According to their internal records, which my investigator was able to access, Jack has received approximately $205,000 in referral fees over the past 10 months. He's referring to Harrington clients, I realized. That explains the retention pattern. He brings in wealthy clients, directs them toward these lifestyle investments through Natalie, collects referral fees, then loses the clients when they realize their portfolios aren't performing as promised. And based on the transaction timing, those referral payments go directly into the Cayman account, not through Harrington's books. I processed this information, the full picture becoming clearer. So this isn't just about an affair. It's a financial scheme, using his position at Harrington to funnel clients to Natalie, collecting undisclosed referral fees, and using our savings to establish a luxury lifestyle in Malibu, possibly as a base for expanding these operations. That's my assessment, Melissa agreed. And now he appears to be accelerating his timeline because he senses I'm on to him, I concluded. I need to confront him tonight before he can move any more assets or alert Natalie that I'm investigating. Be careful, Melissa warned. You don't want to reveal too much about what you know or how you know it, not until all the legal pieces are in place. I'll be strategic, I promised. Just enough confrontation to prevent further damage while I finalize my plans. When I returned to my office, a bouquet of roses had been delivered to my desk, 24 white blooms in an elegant crystal vase. The card read simply, "Looking forward to seeing you tonight. Love." Jack, a calculated gesture. Jack had always been good at romantic gestures when he felt it necessary, particularly when he was hiding something. I left the flowers on my desk and spent the remainder of the afternoon finalizing my presentation for the executive committee. By 6 p.m., I had a comprehensive restructuring plan for Harrington Wealth Management that would integrate it fully into Eastwood's operations, eliminating several senior positions, including Jack's, while retaining the valuable client base and advisor talent. The drive home was tense with anticipation. I had decided on a measured approach, confront Jack about the attempted wire transfer without revealing the full extent of my investigation. His reaction would provide valuable information about his state of mind and future intentions. When I arrived home, I found Jack in the kitchen opening a bottle of expensive Bordeaux, one we had been saving for a special occasion. "There you are." He greeted me with unusual warmth. "I thought we could have a nice dinner tonight. I picked up steaks from that butcher you like." The dining table was already set with our best china and crystal glasses, another calculated touch. In 12 years of marriage, Jack had prepared dinner perhaps a dozen times, always when he wanted something or was making amends for something. "What's the occasion?" I asked, setting my briefcase down. "Do I need an occasion to do something nice for my wife?" He approached, kissing my cheek and handing me a glass of wine. "We've both been so busy lately. I thought we could reconnect." "A bit." I accepted the glass but didn't drink. "Atlantic Trust called me today." His expression faltered for just a moment before recovering. "Oh?" "They were verifying a wire transfer for $180,000. One I didn't authorize." Jack set his wine glass down carefully. "That was a mistake. I was moving some funds for our portfolio rebalancing and must have entered the wrong account number." "To an account in the Cayman Islands?" His eyes narrowed slightly. "What are you talking about?" Coastal Island Banking. The account where you've been transferring our savings for the past 8 months. Nearly $1 million so far. Jack's expression cycled rapidly through surprise, denial, and calculation before settling on concerned confusion. Becca, I think there's been some misunderstanding. I've been rebalancing our portfolio, yes, but everything is properly documented. If Atlantic Trust called about a specific transfer, it was probably just a verification procedure. I froze all. Our joint accounts, I stated flatly. No more transfers without my explicit approval. The flash of anger in his eyes confirmed what I already knew. He had been planning to move more money. You did what? His tone hardened. Based on some paranoid misunderstanding, Rebecca? That could damage time-sensitive investment moves. You need to unfreeze those accounts immediately. Not until you explain exactly where our money has been going. Nearly half our savings has disappeared from our joint accounts. Jack ran a hand through his hair, visibly recalculating his approach. Look, I've been working on some specialized investment strategies. Higher yield but requiring specific timing and positioning. That's why I've been moving funds between accounts. And the condo in Malibu? That's just an investment strategy too? He went very still. What have you been doing, Rebecca? Spying on me? Protecting what's mine, I replied evenly. Our life savings that you've been systematically transferring to fund your girlfriend's luxury lifestyle. That's ridiculous, he scoffed, but his eyes darted away, unable to meet mine. I don't know what you think you've discovered, but you're jumping to insane conclusions. Am I? Natalie Carson? The ocean view in Malibu? The monthly payments to Pacific View properties? Tiffany purchases in Los Angeles when you claim to be in New York? Should I continue? The color drained from Jack's face. He took a step back, bumping against the kitchen counter. For a moment, he seemed genuinely at a loss for words. Then his expression hardened. You had no right to investigate me like this. Those financial decisions were made for our benefit. Stop lying, Jack. I've seen the photos of you together. I know about the $600,000 down payment on her condo. I know about the referral fees you've been collecting for sending clients to Elite Lifestyle Management. His expression changed then, from defensive to calculating. He took a slow sip of wine before responding. Clearly, you've been busy playing detective. Did it ever occur to you to simply ask me about our investments? I'm asking now. Jack sighed dramatically, as if dealing with a particularly difficult client. Natalie is a business associate, not a girlfriend. We've been developing an investment opportunity together, a luxury lifestyle venture with significant potential returns. Yes, I've allocated some of our portfolio to this venture, but the projected ROI justified the investment. Without discussing it with me? Without a single mention of this business associate or the hundreds of thousands of dollars you've diverted to her? I tried to discuss diversifying our investments several times, but you always deferred to my judgment on financial matters. His tone became condescending. You've never shown interest in the details, Rebecca. Numbers bore you. You've said it yourself. The audacity of his gaslighting was almost impressive. I had never said any such thing, but he delivered the lie, with such conviction that for a moment, I almost questioned my own memory. And I suppose the Tiffany purchases were just business expenses? Client gifts, he replied smoothly. Relationship management is a crucial part of high-end financial services. And the lies about your whereabouts? The fictional conference in New York while you were actually in Los Angeles? Strategic meetings that required discretion. The lifestyle venture is still in development. Confidentiality has been essential to securing the right partners and properties. Each lie came easier than the last, woven together into an alternate reality where his deception was merely business acumen that I was too unsophisticated to understand. Then you won't mind showing me the business plan for this venture, I said. The partnership agreements, the projected returns, the client contracts. Since it's all legitimate business involving our joint savings, I should be fully informed. Don't you think so? Jack's jaw tightened. The documents are at my office. I can show you everything tomorrow. And Natalie's role in all this? Why does she need a $2.3 million condo funded by our savings? The property serves multiple purposes: a showcase for potential clients, a base of operations for our West Coast market expansion, and yes, an investment property that's already appreciated considerably. I studied him, almost fascinated by his performance. In 12 years of marriage, I had never seen this side of Jack. The fluid liar, the manipulative salesman willing to fabricate an entire narrative on the spot. I want to see all the documentation, I insisted. Every transaction, every agreement, every communication about this venture. Of course, he agreed too readily. I'll gather everything first thing tomorrow, but Rebecca, you need to unfreeze our accounts immediately. We have time-sensitive transactions pending that could jeopardize the entire investment structure. No, the accounts remain frozen until I've reviewed everything. His expression hardened. That's not reasonable. You're acting emotionally rather than rationally. Exactly why I've managed our finances independently, he said. Independently? I repeated. Is that what you call stealing our joint savings? I haven't stolen anything, he snapped, his composure cracking. Every move I've made has been for our financial benefit. Just because you can't understand sophisticated investment strategies doesn't make them theft. I set my untouched wine, glass on the counter. I'm staying at the Mandarin Oriental tonight. I expect complete documentation of this sophisticated investment strategy by tomorrow evening, including all communications with Natalie Carson and Elite Lifestyle Management. Running away doesn't solve anything, Rebecca, Jack said, his tone shifting to concerned husband. Let's discuss this rationally. We've been married for 12 years. Surely that counts for something. It counted for a lot, I replied quietly, until you decided our marriage vows and financial partnership were open to reinterpretation. I turned to leave the kitchen, and he reached for my arm. Rebecca, wait. I stepped back, avoiding his touch. One more thing. If you attempt to contact Natalie Carson or transfer any more of our money, I'll go directly to the SEC with the evidence of your undisclosed referral fees. I'm sure Harrington Wealth Management would be very interested to learn about that arrangement as well. The threat landed precisely as intended. Jack's face paled, his confident facade crumbling. You wouldn't do that, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. Try me, I replied, meeting his gaze steadily. You've never really understood what I'm capable of, Jack. That's about to change. The Mandarin Oriental lobby glowed with warm lighting as I approached the reception desk, overnight bag in hand. I had packed quickly and methodically after leaving. Jack standing in our kitchen, taking only essentials plus secured copies of important documents I'd been gathering. Good evening, Ms. Harrington. The desk clerk greeted me, recognizing me from previous Eastwood corporate events. Will you be staying with us tonight? Yes, I need a room for several nights. Possibly longer. Of course. We have a lovely corner suite available on the 15th floor. As she processed my personal credit card, my phone vibrated with texts from Jack. This is ridiculous, Becca. Come home so we can talk properly. You're overreacting based on incomplete information. I can explain everything. Just come back. I silenced the phone without responding and accepted the key card from the receptionist. Is there anything else you need this evening, Ms. Harrington? Privacy, I replied. I'm not accepting visitors or calls. The suite was elegantly appointed with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of Boston Harbor, illuminated against the night sky. I set my bag down and moved directly to the desk, removing my laptop and the folder of documents I'd brought from home. While the confrontation with Jack had been necessary to prevent further financial damage, it had also accelerated my timeline. He now knew I was investigating him, which meant he would take defensive actions immediately, contacting Natalie, potentially destroying evidence, and crafting more elaborate explanations for his behavior. I needed to be methodical. Opening my laptop, I created a new document titled Assessment and Strategy with 3 main sections: facts confirmed, questions remaining, and strategic options. Under facts confirmed, I listed everything I knew with certainty. Jack has transferred approximately $860,000 of our joint savings to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands over the past 8 months. He used $600,000 as a down payment on a $2.3 million condo at the Ocean View in Malibu. With the mortgage in Natalie Carson's name, he has received approximately $205,000 in undisclosed referral fees from Elite Lifestyle Management for client referrals, a clear breach of financial industry regulations. He has systematically lied about his whereabouts, claiming to attend conferences while actually meeting Natalie in Los Angeles. He attempted to transfer an additional $180,000 today after I mentioned our upcoming financial review, Harrington Wealth Management. Where Jack works is already owned by Eastwood Financial Group, my employer, through Bridgeport Partners. Jack has been positioning himself to acquire more equity in Harrington when Thomas Mitchell retires. Nathan Richardson plans to acquire the remaining shares of Harrington Wealth Management, potentially as soon as this weekend. Under questions remaining, I wrote, "What is the full extent of Jack and Natalie's relationship? Purely financial opportunism or genuine emotional attachment? How many Harrington clients has Jack directed to Natalie's lifestyle ventures, and have any been harmed financially? Is Jack planning to leave Boston permanently for Los Angeles, or maintaining 2 separate lives? Does William Harrington know about Jack's outside referral activities? What is Jack's next move now that he knows I'm investigating?" I paused, looking out at the city lights as I considered the final section, strategic options. This required careful thought. My objective wasn't simply revenge, though the betrayal certainly warranted it. I needed a solution that would protect my financial interests, address the professional ethics violations, and position me advantageously for the future. Under strategic options, I began listing possibilities: immediate divorce filing with emergency, motion to freeze all assets and accounts, report Jack's undisclosed referral arrangements to Harrington Management and regulatory authorities, accelerate Eastwood's acquisition of Harrington's remaining shares, positioning for direct management control, contact Natalie Carson directly to understand her perspective, and possibly drive a wedge between her and Jack, use evidence of financial impropriety as leverage for a private settlement that recovers my stolen assets. Each option had advantages and risks. Option 1 would protect remaining assets, but might drive Jack to destroy evidence. Option 2 would create professional consequences for Jack, but could potentially damage Harrington's reputation before Eastwood completed its acquisition. Option 3 offered the most comprehensive solution, but required coordination with Nathan and the board. My phone rang. Nathan Richardson's direct line. I answered immediately. "I've been informed you're staying at the Mandarin Oriental tonight," he said without preamble. "I take it that the confrontation with your husband didn't go well." "It went exactly as expected," I replied. "He attempted to lie, then gaslight me about the financial transfers. When those failed, he invented a fictional investment venture to explain his actions. And you left before he could further develop his narrative," Nathan concluded. "Smart. What's your next move?" "I'm developing several options, but I believe accelerating Eastwood's full acquisition of Harrington offers the most comprehensive solution." "I agree. Have breakfast with me tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. at the Beacon Hill Club. We'll finalize our approach to William Harrington at Saturday's gala." After hanging up, I returned to my strategic assessment. Option 3 was looking increasingly viable, particularly with Nathan's direct support. If Eastwood took full control of Harrington Wealth Management, I would be positioned to oversee the restructuring, effectively becoming Jack's boss and controlling his professional future at the same time I addressed his personal betrayal. My phone buzzed again with another text from Jack. I've prepared all the documentation about the investment venture. Where can I meet you tomorrow to review everything? This was a predictable move. He would attempt to fabricate paperwork overnight to support his lies. Instead of responding, I called Melissa. Jack is creating fake documentation to cover his actions, I said when she answered. He'll likely backdate contracts, investment proposals, and communications to make it appear that this was all a legitimate business venture he just forgot to mention to me. Do you want me to do anything about it? Melissa asked. Yes, I need definitive proof of when these documents were actually created. Can your digital forensics person access Harrington's servers to monitor his activities tonight? Possibly. Since Harrington is technically an Eastwood subsidiary, we have legal access to their systems for risk management purposes. Let me make some calls. Perfect. Also, I need everything you can find about Natalie Carson's previous relationships with financial professionals. Jack implied their connection was purely business, but I suspect there's more to it. After ending the call, I continued developing my strategy. The Harrington Wealth Management Charity Gala on Saturday would be a critical opportunity. William Harrington, Jack, Natalie, if she attended, Nathan and key Harrington partners would all be present, the perfect setting to implement a coordinated plan. My primary obstacle was time. Jack now knew I was investigating and would move quickly to cover his tracks. I needed to secure additional evidence and position my legal protections before he could hide or transfer any more assets. A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. I approached cautiously, checking the peephole before opening. It was hotel security with a sealed envelope. Ms. Harrington, this was delivered to the front desk for you with instructions that it be brought up immediately. I accepted the envelope and closed the door, examining it carefully before opening. Inside was a handwritten note from Jack. Becca, I understand you're upset, but you're making a terrible mistake based on misunderstandings. What you've discovered is part of a confidential investment strategy I've been developing that could triple our net worth within 2 years. Please meet me for breakfast tomorrow at 7 a.m. in the hotel restaurant. I'll bring everything you need to see to understand what's really happening. 12 years of marriage deserves at least this consideration. Jack. His handwriting was uncharacteristically rushed, betraying his anxiety despite the confident wording. I set the note aside and returned to my laptop, adding a new item to my strategic options. Allow Jack to present his fabricated documentation to gauge the extent of his deception and identify potential legal vulnerabilities in his narrative. Meeting with him might provide valuable insights into his strategy and mental state. However, it would also give him an opportunity to manipulate me emotionally, something he'd proven quite skilled at over the years. My 7 a.m. breakfast appointment with Nathan at the Beacon Hill Club provided a perfect excuse to decline the breakfast meeting. I texted Jack, "Can't meet for breakfast. Already have a 7 a.m. appointment. We'll call you afterward." His response was immediate. "Cancel it. This is more important. Our future is at stake." The commanding tone was typical Jack, assuming his priorities automatically superseded mine. I didn't reply, turning instead to my preparation for tomorrow morning's meeting with Lauren Blackwell, the divorce attorney. At 6:45 a.m. The next morning, I sat across from Nathan Richardson in the private dining room at the Beacon Hill Club, a discreet establishment favored by Boston's power brokers for sensitive conversations. Your confrontation with Jack accelerated our timeline, Nathan said, stirring his coffee. William Harrington called me directly last night, asking about Eastwood's interest in his firm. Apparently, Jack reached out to him with concerns about a hostile takeover attempt. He's moving faster than anticipated, I noted, trying to poison the well before Saturday's gala. Precisely. But William isn't entirely convinced. He asked specifically about you and your role in any potential acquisition. What did you tell him? That you're one of our most astute strategists, with an exceptional record for integrating acquisitions smoothly. I also mentioned you'd identified Harrington as an undervalued asset months ago. I smiled slightly. That must have confused Jack's narrative. Indeed, William requested a private meeting with both of us before the gala on Saturday. I think we can use that opportunity to present our acquisition proposal directly. What about Jack's allegations about me? I addressed those obliquely, suggested that family conflicts sometimes spill into professional spheres, but assured William that Eastwood's interest in Harrington is purely strategic. And he accepted that? Let's say he's reserving judgment. William is a businessman first. If our offer is compelling enough, personal drama won't derail it. I nodded, taking a sip of my coffee. What's our timeline? Ideally, we secure William's commitment at the pre-gala meeting, announce the acquisition during the event, and have preliminary paperwork signed by Monday morning. Our legal team is preparing all the documentation now. And Jack's position? In the restructured organization? Nathan's expression turned serious. That depends on the outcome of our compliance investigation. David Sullivan has a team reviewing all of Jack's client files and transactions. If there's evidence of regulatory violations, we'll have no choice but to terminate him immediately and self-report to the SEC. And if the evidence is inconclusive, then it becomes a business decision rather than a regulatory one. Given what we know about his activities, I wouldn't be inclined to retain him regardless. The reputational risk is too high. I nodded in agreement. What about Natalie Carson? She's apparently planning to attend the gala as Jack's guest. That complicates matters, Nathan admitted. Having his mistress at the same event where we're announcing Eastwood's acquisition of his firm creates potential for disruption. Or opportunity, I countered. If Natalie realizes Jack's position is compromised, she might distance herself from him to protect her own interests. From what Melissa's investigation revealed, she has a pattern of abandoning partners when they become liabilities. A fair point. How would you like to handle her presence? Let events unfold naturally. If Jack brings her as his business partner to support his false narrative, it will only highlight the deception when the truth about Eastwood's acquisition is revealed. At 7:30 a.m., I sat in Lauren Blackwell's office at Morgan & Associates. The space exuded professional competence, understated decor, organized files, and a wall of legal credentials that spoke to Lauren's expertise in high-asset divorce cases. Nathan briefed me on the broader situation, she said after I'd outlined my case. The offshore account transfers, the Mistress, the potential regulatory issues. This is what we call a clean break case. Meaning? There's clear evidence of financial misconduct and marital breach. Massachusetts courts take a dim view of spouses who hide assets, particularly when they're financial professionals who should know better. She made a note in her leather portfolio. The complicating factor is the professional overlap between you and your husband through Eastwood's ownership of Harrington. We'll need to carefully separate the marriage dissolution from the business restructuring to avoid any appearance of using corporate resources for personal advantage. That's why I'm here, I confirmed. I need a strategy that addresses both the personal financial theft and maintains my professional integrity. I'd recommend a two-track approach, Lauren said. First, we file emergency motions to freeze all remaining domestic assets and formally document the unauthorized transfers for eventual recovery. Second, we prepare a private settlement proposal, leveraging your knowledge of his SEC violations, the undisclosed referral fees in particular. And the timing? The emergency motions should be filed immediately. The settlement proposal should wait until you've secured your position in the Harrington acquisition. You want maximum leverage when you present terms. What about the charity gala this weekend? Jack, Natalie, William Harrington, and Nathan will all be present. Lauren considered this. That creates both risk and opportunity. If Natalie Carson attends as Jack's guest, it confirms a relationship beyond professional boundaries that he'd have difficulty explaining. However, it also creates potential for public confrontation, which would be disadvantageous at this stage. I can handle Jack in public, I assured her. My concern is protecting my legal position while Eastwood finalizes the Harrington acquisition. In that case, I'll prepare the emergency motions today and have them ready to file by this afternoon. For the gala, maintain professional appearances while gathering any additional evidence of Jack's relationship with Carson. Once Eastwood's acquisition is secure, we'll move forward with the comprehensive settlement proposal. After leaving Lauren's office, I headed directly to Eastwood rather than returning to the Mandarin Oriental. Jack had texted me 5 more times. Since last night, his messages growing increasingly urgent. Missed you at breakfast. Where are you? We need to talk before this gets any further out of hand. I've spoken with William. He's concerned about how your actions might affect Harrington's reputation. That last message caught my attention. Jack was trying to leverage William Harrington against me, a predictable but potentially problematic move if he succeeded in turning Harrington hostile before Nathan could finalize the acquisition. At Eastwood, I found Ryan waiting with updated information on Harrington's client base and performance metrics. I've analyzed the client movement patterns, he said, handing me a report. Approximately 25% of Jack's clients who left Harrington within the 24-36-month window made significant lifestyle investments through Elite Lifestyle Management within 3 months of leaving. For the ones we could track, yes. Most invested in luxury real estate, exclusive club memberships, or private investment opportunities, with minimum buy-ins of $250,000. And the performance of their investment portfolios while under Jack's management? Consistently underperformed. Market benchmarks by 7–10%, with unusually high cash positions maintained prior to their departure from Harrington. The pattern was clear. Jack had been systematically positioning client assets for cash withdrawals, likely encouraging them to redirect those funds toward exclusive opportunities through Natalie's company. It was a textbook case of financial advisor misconduct, placing personal gain above client interests. My desk phone rang. William Harrington himself. "Rebecca, good morning." "I hope I'm not interrupting," he began, his voice carrying the practiced warmth of someone who'd spent decades cultivating wealthy clients. "Not at all, William. What can I do for you? I understand there might be some domestic complications between you and Jack. He's expressed concern about potential disruptions to client relationships. So Jack had gone directly to Harrington, attempting to position me as emotionally unstable and professionally threatening, a predictable defensive move. How thoughtful of him to involve you in our personal matters," I replied smoothly. "While I appreciate your concern, I can assure you that my professional conduct remains unaffected. In fact, I'm looking forward to seeing you at the charity gala on Saturday." "Ah, yes, the gala." He seemed momentarily thrown by my calm response. "That's actually part of why I'm calling. Nathan Richardson mentioned he'll be attending at your invitation." "That's correct. He's expressed interest in deepening Eastwood's relationship with Harrington Wealth Management." A pause. "I wasn't aware you had discussed our firm with him." "Just professional courtesy. As you know, financial services is a relationship business, and Nathan values connecting with respected industry leaders like yourself." "I see." Another pause. "Will you be bringing anyone to the gala, or will Jack be your escort?" An interesting question. He was fishing to understand the current state of my relationship with Jack. "So I believe Jack mentioned he might be bringing a business associate," I said casually. "I'll be escorting Nathan, since he doesn't know many people in Boston's financial community." A business associate? William's surprise confirmed my suspicion that Jack hadn't mentioned bringing Natalie. I wasn't aware of that arrangement. Perhaps I misunderstood. In any case, I look forward to introducing you to Nathan on Saturday. He's particularly interested in your perspective on wealth management trends for ultra-high net worth clients. After ending the call, I considered this new development. Jack had spoken with William but hadn't mentioned bringing Natalie to the gala. Was he planning to keep her away to maintain his cover story of a purely professional relationship? Or was he planning to introduce her in a controlled setting to support his investment venture narrative? My phone buzzed with a text from Melissa. Found something significant. Where can we meet? My office now. 20 minutes later, Melissa closed. My office door behind her, her expression unusually serious. My digital forensics contact monitored Jack's activities on Harrington servers last night. Between 9:20 p.m. and 3:15 a.m., he created and backdated multiple documents, investment prospectuses, partnership agreements, client presentations, all featuring Sunset Horizon Ventures and Elite Lifestyle Management. He's fabricating an elaborate paper trail to support his claim of a legitimate investment venture. As expected, I nodded. What else? More concerning. He accessed Harrington's client database and modified contact records for approximately 18 high-net-worth clients, changing email addresses and phone numbers. This was unexpected. He's attempting to hide client contacts so I can't reach out to them directly. Exactly. But there's more. Our investigation into Natalie Carson uncovered something significant. Melissa handed me a folder. She was previously engaged to Robert Sanderson, a Chicago investment advisor who lost his license 2 years ago for defrauding clients through exclusive investment opportunities. I opened the folder to find newspaper clippings and regulatory filings detailing Sanderson's downfall. His scheme had involved convincing wealthy clients to invest in luxury lifestyle ventures that were either overvalued or non-existent. Natalie had been questioned by investigators but never charged. The pattern is identical, I observed. Target wealthy clients, direct them toward overpriced luxury investments, collect fees and commissions on both ends. And when the scheme collapsed in Chicago, Natalie relocated to Los Angeles and apparently found a new partner in Jack. This information changed my assessment significantly. What I had initially framed as a personal betrayal, Jack stealing RE savings to fund a relationship with a younger woman, now appeared to be part of a calculated financial fraud scheme, with Natalie as the experienced operator and Jack as her newest accomplice. This is why he's been moving our savings offshore, I realized. He's not just funding a lifestyle with Natalie. He's establishing a financial escape route in case their scheme is discovered. That's my assessment as well, Melissa agreed. And, now that you've confronted him, he may accelerate his timeline. I turned to the window, processing this new information. Jack wasn't just a cheating husband or a thief. He was potentially involved in systematic client fraud, alongside a partner who had experience evading consequences when similar schemes collapsed. We need to move more aggressively, I decided. Contact Lauren Blackwell and tell her to file those emergency motions immediately. Then call Nathan. We need to meet before tomorrow night's gala. This isn't just about restructuring Harrington anymore. It's about preventing Jack and Natalie from defrauding more clients. As Melissa left to make the calls, I returned to my strategic assessment document. The situation had evolved beyond personal betrayal into something more serious, a potential financial fraud scheme that threatened not just my savings, but the assets of Harrington clients as well. This changed everything, including my approach to Saturday's charity gala and my ultimate plan for dealing with Jack. By noon, my office had transformed into a command center. Ryan had cleared my schedule, citing a strategic acquisition emergency, while Melissa coordinated with Lauren Blackwell on the emergency motions. I needed additional allies, people with specialized expertise and absolute discretion. My first call was to Emma Thornton, Eastwood's Chief Compliance Officer. At 52, Emma had spent 18 years in banking regulation before joining Eastwood, giving her unparalleled insight into financial compliance issues. I need your expertise on a sensitive matter, I explained when she arrived at my office, closing the door behind her. What I'm about to share involves potential regulatory violations at Harrington Wealth Management. Emma's expression remained professionally neutral as I outlined Jack's undisclosed referral arrangements with Elite Lifestyle Management and the pattern of client movements. This is textbook conflict of interest, she confirmed after reviewing the data. Financial advisors cannot receive compensation for directing clients to specific investments without full disclosure to both the client and their firm. If this pattern is as systematic as it appears, we're looking at significant regulatory violations. What would the standard protocol be for handling this type of situation? Typically, immediate termination of the advisor, client notification, investigation of all affected accounts, and self-reporting to regulatory authorities, Emma replied. However, given Eastwood's ownership interest in Harrington through Bridgeport Partners, we have additional considerations, such as reputational risk through association. If this becomes public before we've established clear separation between the misconduct and Harrington's overall operations, it could damage both firms. And if we're simultaneously pursuing full acquisition of Harrington, Emma's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. That creates both risk and opportunity. The risk is acquiring an entity with undisclosed regulatory problems. The opportunity is controlling the remediation process completely. I need your help designing a risk containment strategy, I said. One that protects Harrington's legitimate clients and advisors while isolating Jack and anyone who facilitated his activities. I can work with that, Emma nodded. I'll need complete client transaction records and all communications between Jack and these Los Angeles real estate entities. Ryan will get you everything we have. Also, I'd like you to attend the Harrington Charity Gala tomorrow night as part of our team, unofficially assessing regulatory exposure. Smart, Emma concluded. After Emma left, I received a text from Nathan. Emergency meeting confirmed for 4 p.m. Windsor Hotel private dining room. Bringing Howard Marshall. Howard Marshall was Eastwood's general counsel. Nathan was assembling his own team of heavyweights, sensing the increased complexity of the situation. My phone rang. Jack again. After 6 ignored calls since morning, I decided to answer. "Where are you?" he demanded without preamble. "I've been trying to reach you all day." "I'm working, Jack," I replied calmly. "Something you might consider focusing on as well." "This is ridiculous, Rebecca. I've prepared all the documentation about the investment venture. You're refusing to even look at it." "I have a counter-proposal," I said. "Meet me at Morgan & Associates at 2 p.m. Bring your documentation, and we'll review it with my attorney present." A telling pause. "You've involved attorneys already. That's completely unnecessary and potentially damaging to both our reputations." "PM Morgan & Associates, or I can proceed without your input." After a moment of tense silence, he conceded. "Fine. Text me the address." I hung up and immediately called Lauren Blackwell to brief her on the upcoming meeting. This confrontation would serve multiple purposes. Giving me direct access to Jack's fabricated documentation, establishing legal boundaries for our interactions going forward, and most importantly, preventing him from taking more drastic measures, out of desperation. My next call was to Alex Bennett, Eastwood's head of digital forensics. While technically part of our cybersecurity team, Alex's expertise extended to all forms of digital investigation. His quick mind and uncompromising attention to detail had saved Eastwood from numerous potential disasters over the years. "I need your help with a delicate matter," I began when he arrived. "It involves personal and professional boundaries, so I understand if you'd prefer not to participate." "Try me," Alex replied, his direct manner refreshing amid the careful corporate speak that dominated most executive conversations. I explained the situation, focusing on the technical aspects, Jack's creation of backdated documents, his modification of client records, and the potential digital trail connecting him to Natalie Carson. "So you need me to verify document creation dates, recover original client information, and map communication between your husband and this Natalie person," Alex summarized. "All technically feasible, though the offshore accounts will be trickier. Eastwood's ownership of Harrington through Bridgeport Partners gives us legal access to their systems," I noted. and the emergency motions being filed today will provide judicial authorization for investigating the financial accounts. Alex nodded. Give me admin access to Harrington's servers for 24 hours. I'll recover everything he tried to hide. As Alex left, Ryan entered with an update about the charity gala preparations. Nathan's office has confirmed Eastwood's table placement, adjacent to William Harrington's. The seating chart currently shows Jack seated with the Harrington executives, while you're at the Eastwood table with Nathan. Perfect. Has there been any confirmation about who Jack is bringing as his guest? Nothing official, but the Harrington. Office administrator mentioned arranging a hotel room for a special guest from Los Angeles arriving tomorrow afternoon. So, Natalie was indeed coming to Boston for the gala, a significant development. Was Jack planning to introduce her as his business partner to support his investment venture narrative, or keeping her presence low-key to avoid raising questions? 1. More thing, Ryan added. Thomas Mitchell called. He'd like to meet with you privately before the gala. Said it's important and confidential. Thomas's request was intriguing. As Harrington's operations director and a minority partner, he would have visibility into Jack's client activities that others might miss. Perhaps he had noticed irregularities himself. Arrange for me to meet Thomas at 1 p.m. tomorrow at the Eat ID Windsor Hotel lobby bar. And, Rebecca, I'll need your help preparing a comprehensive briefing document for Nathan before your meeting this afternoon. Everything we know about Jack's activities, the client patterns, and Natalie Carson's history. At 1:45 p.m., I arrived at Morgan & Associates, where Lauren Blackwell was waiting in a conference room. The emergency motions have been filed, she confirmed. All domestic accounts and assets are now legally frozen pending full financial disclosure and court review. And the offshore accounts? We've initiated the process through international banking channels, but that will take longer. However, any attempts to move funds from those accounts now would constitute clear evidence of intent to hide assets, strengthening our case significantly. Good. When Jack arrives, I want to review his fabricated documentation without revealing how much we already know about his activities with Natalie Carson. Understood. Focus on inconsistencies and creation dates while establishing a record of his claims for future proceedings. At precisely 2 p.m., Jack was shown into the conference room, leather portfolio in hand. He had dressed carefully in his most expensive suit, dark blue with a subtle pinstripe, his power outfit for important client meetings. His confident smile faltered slightly at the formal setting. This seems excessive, Becca, he said, eyeing Lauren cautiously. We could have resolved this over lunch. Jack, this is Lauren Blackwell, my attorney. She'll be documenting our conversation today. Attorney? Jack's expression hardened. I thought we were meeting to discuss our investment venture. We're here to review your documentation, I corrected. Please proceed. With obvious reluctance, Jack opened his portfolio and removed a stack of professionally printed documents, sliding them across the table. As I tried to explain, Sunset Horizon Ventures is a specialized investment vehicle focusing on ultra-luxury lifestyle experiences in high-growth markets, he began, slipping into his practiced advisor tone. The partnership was formed 8 months ago after extensive market analysis identified significant arbitrage opportunities in the Southern California corridor. I examined the documents, elaborate, professional, and entirely fraudulent. The investment prospectus detailed a sophisticated lifestyle strategy, complete with market projections, risk assessments, and governance structures, everything designed to legitimize what was actually theft and fraud. This prospectus is dated 8 months ago, I noted, yet it was created on Harrington Wealth Management's servers between 9:20 p.m. and 3:15 a.m. last night. Jack's expression froze. That's ridiculous. These documents have existed since the venture's inception. Digital forensics don't lie, Jack. Every document here was created within the past 24 hours, then backdated to create the appearance of a legitimate business venture. You're having me investigated? His facade of a reasonable businessman cracked slightly, revealing anger beneath. That's invasive and completely inappropriate. What's inappropriate is transferring nearly $1 million of our joint savings to an offshore account without my knowledge or consent, I replied evenly. Or using $600,000 of those funds as a down payment on a luxury condo for Natalie Carson. Lauren intervened smoothly. Mr. Harrington, we filed emergency motions to freeze all joint assets pending full financial disclosure and court review. Any attempts to transfer additional funds would constitute contempt of court. Jack's face paled, then flushed with anger. This is outrageous. You've completely misinterpreted legitimate business activities based on your emotional insecurities. Am I? Natalie Carson? The ocean view in Malibu? The monthly payments to Pacific View properties? Tiffany purchases in Los Angeles when you claim to be in New York? Should I continue? A flicker of genuine alarm crossed his face before he recovered. There are standard industry referral arrangements for qualified client introductions. Everything is documented and compliant with regulatory requirements. Documented where? Not in Harrington's records, not in your client disclosures, not in any regulatory filings. Jack shifted strategies, leaning forward with an expression of sincere concern. Rebecca, you're jeopardizing an extremely promising investment opportunity because of misunderstandings and hasty conclusions. If you'd simply allow me to walk you through the complete structure— I've seen enough, I interrupted, gathering the documents and handing them to Lauren. These will be entered as evidence of attempted fraud and misrepresentation. Evidence? Jack's voice rose. We're husband and wife having a financial disagreement, not opponents in some legal battle. We stopped being husband and wife when you stole our life savings to fund your relationship with Natalie Carson, I replied calmly. Now we're simply adverse parties in a legal proceeding. This is insane, he sputtered. You have no idea what you're doing or the damage you're causing. Lauren interjected again. Mr. Harrington, I suggest you retain your own counsel immediately. All future communications should be directed through appropriate legal channels. Jack stood abruptly. Fine. If you want to play it this way, William Harrington is a personal friend. When he hears about this, your position at Eastwood won't protect you. The threat was empty but revealing. Jack still believed his connection to William Harrington gave him leverage over me, unaware that Eastwood already controlled Harrington Wealth Management and was moving to acquire the remaining shares. We're done here, I said, standing as well. One more thing. Don't attempt to contact me directly again. All communications should go through Lauren. As Jack stormed out, Lauren turned to me with raised eyebrows. He's escalating emotionally. That's good for our legal position, but potentially concerning from a security perspective. I've already enhanced security at my hotel and office, I assured her. But you're right. His reaction suggests he's feeling cornered, which makes him unpredictable. At 3:30 p.m., I left Morgan and Associates with digital copies of Jack's fabricated documents, sending them immediately to Alex for forensic analysis. The confrontation had confirmed my assessment. Jack was committed to maintaining his false narrative, believing he could overwhelm me with technical financial jargon and emotional manipulation. His final threat regarding William Harrington suggested his next move would be attempting to leverage Harrington against me professionally. What he didn't realize was that I was already several steps ahead in that game. The Windsor Hotel occupied the top 3 floors of one of Boston's oldest buildings, its membership restricted to a carefully curated list of the city's power brokers. Nathan Richardson's private dining room offered spectacular harbor views and absolute privacy, essential for the conversation we were about to have. Nathan was already seated with Howard Marshall when I arrived. At 65, Howard had served as Eastwood's general counsel for over 2 decades, his methodical legal mind complementing Nathan's strategic boldness. The situation has evolved, Nathan stated without preliminary pleasantries. William Harrington called me directly this afternoon. This was unexpected. What prompted that? Your husband, apparently. According to William, Jack expressed grave concerns about Eastwood's interest in Harrington Wealth Management, suggesting a potential hostile takeover attempt disguised as a friendly overture. Jack was moving faster than anticipated, trying to poison the well before Saturday's gala. Did William seem receptive to that interpretation? I asked. Not entirely, Nathan replied. He seemed more curious than concerned, particularly when I mentioned that any acquisition discussions would naturally include consideration of current management's performance and ethical standards. Howard added, William inquired specifically, about your role in Eastwood's interest in Harrington. I believe he's attempting to determine whether this is a personal matter bleeding into professional territory. Which of course it isn't, Nathan said firmly. Eastwood's interest in acquiring Harrington's remaining shares is purely strategic, regardless of your personal situation with Jack. I nodded, appreciating Nathan's clear positioning. That's precisely how I've approached this from the beginning. But there are additional complications you should be aware of. I outlined the findings about Jack's client referral scheme with Natalie Carson and her previous connection to Robert Sanderson's fraud case in Chicago. Howard's expression grew increasingly grave. This creates significant regulatory exposure for Harrington Wealth Management. If Jack has been receiving undisclosed compensation for directing clients to specific investments, that's a clear violation of fiduciary duty regulations. Which is why I've involved Emma Thornton, I explained. She's developing a risk containment strategy that would protect Harrington's legitimate operations while isolating Jack's misconduct. Nathan contemplated this information. William believes he's selling his remaining shares to strengthen Harrington's position. He has no idea he's potentially sitting on a regulatory time bomb, which gives us additional leverage in acquisition negotiations, I noted. But it also creates urgency to complete the deal before these issues become public. Agreed, Nathan said decisively. Our objective for tomorrow's gala is clear. Secure William's commitment to sell his remaining shares to Eastwood, position the transaction as a protective measure for Harrington's legacy, and manage Jack's attempts to interfere. There's one more complication, I added. Jack is bringing Natalie Carson to the gala tomorrow. Based on his fabricated investment venture documents, I believe he intends to introduce her as his business partner to support his false narrative. Nathan's eyes narrowed. That's bold. Does he realize the risk of having her in the same room with you? He's desperate and cornered, I replied. He thinks introducing Natalie in a controlled, professional context will legitimize his story and undermine my claims. Then we'll need to be prepared for that scenario as well, Howard noted. If Carson is indeed part of a systematic fraud scheme, having her in the same room with potential victims creates both risk and opportunity. I agree, said Nathan. Rebecca, I want you focused on William Harrington tomorrow night. Secure his commitment to the acquisition regardless of whatever drama Jack attempts to create. What about Natalie Carson? I asked. A small, calculated smile appeared on Nathan's face. Leave her to me. I have some experience handling social climbers attempting to exploit my business associates. As the meeting concluded, Nathan held me back momentarily. Are you certain you can maintain professional focus tomorrow night? Seeing your husband with his mistress at a public event would challenge anyone's composure. So I'm not just anyone, I replied evenly. And rest assured my professional focus has never been sharper. Nathan studied me appraisingly. No, you're not just anyone. That's precisely why Jack underestimated you. A mistake he'll soon regret. Profoundly. Back at the Mandarin Oriental, I found a small package waiting at the front desk, delivered by courier from Lauren Blackwell. Inside was a sealed USB drive with a handwritten note. Digital forensic report on document creation timeline. Definitive proof of fabrication. Use as needed. In my suite, I connected the drive to my laptop, reviewing Alex's preliminary findings. He had traced the creation history of every document Jack had presented, establishing beyond doubt that all had been created within the past 24 hours. More damning, he had recovered fragments of email communications between Jack and Natalie discussing the need to create convincing documentation and establish a paper trail in response to my confrontation. The evidence was overwhelming. Jack hadn't just stolen our savings. He had engaged in a calculated fraud scheme with Natalie Carson, targeting wealthy clients while building an offshore escape plan funded by our joint assets. Tomorrow's charity gala would be a turning point, not just for my personal situation with Jack, but for the professional futures of everyone involved with Harrington Wealth Management. While Jack believed he was cleverly managing a difficult situation, he remained completely unaware of the true power dynamics at play. He still had no idea he was working for a company I effectively controlled. By tomorrow night, that would change, dramatically, along with everything else in his carefully constructed world of lies. The morning of the charity gala dawned clear and bright, Boston's crisp autumn air carrying the promise of change. I'd slept surprisingly well. My mind settled now that all pieces were in position for the evening ahead. My first appointment was with Thomas Mitchell, who'd requested our meeting be kept confidential. We met in a quiet corner of the Windsor Hotel lobby bar, the space nearly empty at that hour. Thomas looked troubled, fidgeting with his coffee cup as I approached. "Thank you for meeting me, Rebecca. I wouldn't normally involve myself in a colleague's personal matters, but this situation has professional implications I can't ignore." "I appreciate your discretion," I replied. "What concerns you?" He glanced around before answering. "Jack has been making alarming claims about you at Harrington, suggesting you're using your position at Eastwood to pursue some kind of vendetta against him and potentially damage Harrington Wealth Management in the process. That's quite an accusation." "It gets worse," Thomas continued. "Yesterday, he called an impromptu meeting with several senior advisors, presenting documents about a high-potential investment venture he claims you're trying to sabotage out of personal animosity. He's positioning himself as the victim of an irrational attack." This aligned with what I'd anticipated. "Did these documents mention Sunset Horizon Ventures or Elite Lifestyle Management?" Thomas's eyebrows rose. "Yes, both." "You're familiar with the venture?" "I'm familiar with the fabrication," I corrected. "Those documents were created 2 nights ago on Harrington servers. The entire venture is a hastily constructed cover story." Thomas sat back, processing this. "That's disturbing, but not entirely surprising. There have been irregularities with some of Jack's client accounts that I've been monitoring quietly." "What kind of irregularities?" "Unusual cash positions, clients making large withdrawals for alternative investments not managed. Through Harrington, account migration patterns that don't align with our typical client behavior." Thomas hesitated. "I've been building a file, actually. Nothing conclusive enough to take action on yet, but concerning patterns." This was an unexpected ally. "I'd be very interested in seeing that file, Thomas." He nodded slowly. "I thought you might be. I've bought a copy." He slid a flash drive across the table. "What troubles me most is that several of these clients had long-standing relationships with Harrington before Jack redirected their investments elsewhere. And William Harrington, is he aware of these concerns?" Thomas shook his head. "William has been gradually disengaging from daily operations for years. He trusts his senior team implicitly, perhaps too much so. When Jack joined our partnership track, William took a special interest in him, seeing him as part of the firm's future leadership. And now? Now, William is focused on his legacy and retirement. The potential acquisition by Eastwood has become his primary concern. He sees it as securing Harrington's future after he fully steps away." I took a thoughtful sip of coffee. "And how do you feel about that acquisition, Thomas?" His answer surprised me. "Relieved, honestly. I've been concerned about the firm's direction. Some of our newer partners, including Jack, have been pushing for more aggressive growth strategies that I believe compromise our fiduciary commitments to clients. Would you be willing to share your concerns with Nathan Richardson? As Eastwood's CEO, he's particularly interested in maintaining Harrington's ethical standards through any acquisition. I'd welcome that conversation, Thomas agreed. Perhaps at the gala tonight? Perfect. I'll arrange an introduction. After Thomas left, I reviewed the contents of his flash drive. His file was meticulously organized, documenting unusual patterns in over 25 client accounts managed by Jack. Thomas had tracked sudden account liquidations, investment redirections, and client departures, creating a damning timeline that corroborated everything we'd discovered about Jack's scheme with Natalie Carson. I forwarded the files to Alex with instructions to incorporate them into his forensic analysis, then called Nathan to update him on this new development. Thomas Mitchell could be invaluable in the restructuring, Nathan noted after I explained his concerns. His institutional knowledge and ethical stance would provide continuity through the transition. I agree. He's exactly the type of professional we want to retain. Excellent. Now, regarding tonight's strategy, Howard has prepared acquisition terms to present to William. If he agrees in principle, we'll have legal documentation ready for preliminary signatures before the evening ends. And Jack? Let him make the first move, Nathan advised. Based on what you've shared, he's likely to introduce Natalie Carson and attempt to establish their business relationship narrative publicly. That presents an opportunity for us to observe their dynamics with others. And if he confronts me directly, maintain professional composure, deflect personal elements, and redirect to appropriate channels. Remember, tonight is about securing Harrington's acquisition, not addressing your personal situation with Jack. At 5 p.m., I was at the Mandarin Oriental Spa for my pre-gala preparations, allowing myself this small luxury amid the strategic calculations. As I sat having my hair styled, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown Los Angeles number. We should talk before tonight. This is Natalie Carson. The message was unexpected, but not entirely surprising. I considered ignoring it, then decided tactical engagement might provide valuable insight. What would you like to discuss? I replied. The response came quickly. A mutually beneficial resolution to this situation. Coffee in 30 minutes? I'm at the Windsor Hotel bar. This was intriguing. Was Natalie reaching out independently, or was this coordinated with Jack? Either way, it presented an opportunity to assess her directly before the evening's events. I'll be there in 40 minutes, I texted back. Natalie Carson was exactly as her photographs suggested. Strikingly beautiful, impeccably styled, with the polished confidence of someone accustomed to leveraging her appearance for professional advantage. She sat at a corner table in the bar, a sparkling water with lime before her. Rebecca, she greeted me with a practiced smile. Thank you for meeting me. I took the seat across from her. I'm curious about what you think we have to discuss, Ms. Carson. Please, call me Natalie. Her Los Angeles accent was subtle, but noticeable. I thought it might be helpful for us to speak directly, woman to woman, without Jack's interpretations complicating matters. Go on. She leaned forward slightly. I believe you've misunderstood the nature of my relationship with Jack. We're business partners developing a specialized investment channel for high-net-worth individuals seeking luxury lifestyle opportunities. That's the same fiction Jack presented, I noted, complete with backdated documents created 2 nights ago. A flicker of uncertainty crossed her face. I'm not sure what you're referring to. Our partnership documentation was established months ago when we formalized the venture. Let's not waste time with lies, Natalie. I know about Robert Sanderson in Chicago. I know about the referral fees. I know about the $600,000 down payment on your Ocean View condo from my savings. She recovered quickly, her expression shifting to pragmatic calculation. I see. Jack wasn't exaggerating about your investigative thoroughness. That's actually why I wanted to meet. I respect competence. Zhu, what exactly are you proposing? A peace, she replied smoothly. Jack doesn't know I'm meeting you. Frankly, I'm reassessing my position given recent developments, considering cutting him loose. You're offering to betray Jack to save yourself. I translated. Natalie shrugged elegantly. Business partnerships, like all relationships, require ongoing evaluation of their viability. Jack's handling of this situation has raised concerns about his crisis management capabilities. And what would this separate piece entail? Information, she said simply. I have documentation of every client transaction, every referral fee, every communication about investment redirections, all evidence that could be valuable to you personally and professionally. In exchange for immunity from whatever regulatory actions might be forthcoming and retention of certain assets already transferred to me. Why would you think I have the authority to offer regulatory immunity? A knowing smile played on her lips. Because I've done my research too, Rebecca. Eastwood Financial Group controls Harrington Wealth Management through Bridgeport Partners, and you're Eastwood's chief strategy officer. You're not just Jack's wife, you're effectively his boss, though he doesn't know it yet. This was unexpected. Natalie had uncovered the ownership connection that Jack had missed entirely. Impressive research, I acknowledged, but incomplete. Any immunity arrangement would require multiple approvals beyond my authority, and retention of fraudulently obtained assets is unlikely regardless of cooperation. I'm flexible on terms, Natalie countered. My priority is positioning advantageously for whatever comes next. Submit your documentation to this email address, I said, sliding a business card across the table. Once we've assessed its value, we can discuss potential arrangements through appropriate legal channels. Natalie pocketed the card with a satisfied nod. I knew you'd be reasonable. Unlike Jack, you recognize that business is ultimately about pragmatic outcomes, not emotional attachments. Speaking of Jack, does he know about this meeting? No, and I'd prefer to keep it that way for now. He's been increasingly erratic since your confrontation. In what way? Paranoid, controlling, obsessively monitoring news about Eastwood and Harrington. He's convinced you're orchestrating some elaborate professional takedown. And what do you think? I asked, genuinely curious about her assessment. Natalie studied me for a moment. I think Jack made the classic mistake of underestimating a woman's capabilities because he was blinded by his own ego. A mistake I wouldn't make. With that, she stood gracefully. I should go prepare for tonight. Consider my offer, Rebecca. Unlike Jack, I believe in cutting losses when necessary, rather than doubling down on failing strategies. The Fairmont Copley Plaza Ballroom glowed with elegant lighting as Boston's financial elite gathered for Harrington Wealth Management's annual charity gala. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm light over tables adorned with elaborate flower arrangements, while a string quartet played softly in the background. I arrived precisely at 7:45 p.m., wearing a fitted emerald green gown that projected confident sophistication. Nathan was already present, engaged in conversation with several Eastwood board members at our designated table. Rebecca, he greeted me warmly. Impeccable timing. William Harrington has been asking when you'd arrive. William. Harrington stood across the room, distinguished in his tuxedo, greeting guests alongside his wife. Jack was nowhere in sight yet, though several Harrington executives, including Thomas Mitchell, were clustered near the bar. Has our special guest from Los Angeles made an appearance? I asked quietly. Not yet, Nathan replied, though I understand. You've already had a preliminary meeting, I raised an eyebrow. Your sources are impressive. As are yours, he countered with a slight smile. The Windsor Hotel concierge is particularly attentive to Eastwood executives' activities. What's your assessment of Ms. Carson? Coldly pragmatic, she's already positioning to abandon Jack and save herself. As expected, Social climbers typically prioritize self-preservation over loyalty. Our conversation was interrupted by William. Harrington's approach. Rebecca. Wonderful to see you. His greeting was effusive, betraying no sign of the concerns Jack had supposedly raised. And Nathan Richardson. I'm delighted you could join us tonight. The pleasure is mine, Nathan replied smoothly. Harrington Wealth Management's commitment to philanthropic leadership is admirable. Speaking of leadership, William said, turning to me, I understand we should discuss Eastwood's interest in deepening our firm's relationship. Perhaps during dinner. I'd welcome that conversation, I agreed. Nathan has some thoughts on how our organizations might evolve together. William nodded, looking pleased. Excellent. I've arranged our seating accordingly. He glanced toward the entrance. Here's Jack now. I turned to see Jack entering the ballroom, Natalie Carson on his arm. She was stunning in a sapphire blue gown that drew every eye in the room. Exactly as intended, no doubt. Jack guided her through the crowd with proprietary pride, nodding to colleagues and clients as they made their way toward us. William, Jack greeted warmly, shaking his hand. May I introduce Natalie Carson, my business partner from Elite Lifestyle Management. Natalie, this is William Harrington, founder of Harrington Wealth Management. A pleasure to meet you, Mr. Harrington, Natalie said, her voice carrying just the right note of respectful admiration. Jack speaks so highly of your vision for the firm. Charmed, William replied. And you know Rebecca, of course. We've met, I confirmed, maintaining professional composure. Just this afternoon, in fact. A flash of alarm crossed Jack's face. You've met? When? Ms. Carson reached out to discuss some investment strategies, I replied smoothly. Very informative conversation. Natalie's smile remained unchanged. Through her eyes conveyed a clear message. She was playing her own game. Now, independent of Jack's failing strategy. Indeed, she agreed. I always believe in direct communication when navigating complex situations. Jack's expression tightened as he processed this unexpected development. Rebecca, could I have a word privately? Actually, dinner is about to be served, Nathan interjected. And William has arranged specific seating to facilitate our discussions about Eastwood and Harrington's future collaboration. Collaboration? Jack repeated, confusion evident. Yes, exciting developments ahead. William clapped him on the shoulder. We'll discuss everything over dinner. Jack, you and Ms. Carson are at table 3 with Thomas and some of our key clients. We moved toward our tables. Jack caught my arm. What are you doing? He hissed. What collaboration is William talking about? Business, Jack, I replied calmly. Something you should focus on rather than creating elaborate cover stories for fraud. His grip tightened. You need to stop this now, Rebecca. You have no idea what you're interfering with. I know exactly what I'm interfering with, I corrected, extracting my arm from his grasp. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a dinner meeting with your boss, and mine. Throughout dinner, I watched Jack growing increasingly agitated as he observed Nathan, William, and me engaged in animated conversation. Natalie, meanwhile, charmed everyone at her table, while periodically checking her phone, likely waiting, for confirmation that her documentation had been received and reviewed. By dessert, William had agreed in principle to Eastwood's acquisition of his remaining shares in Harrington Wealth Management. Howard Marshall had produced preliminary documents, which William reviewed approvingly. This ensures Harrington's legacy continues. Under proper stewardship, William noted as the initial each page. Though I must ask about current management continuity through the transition. We anticipate retaining key professionals who uphold Harrington's ethical standards, Nathan assured him, while implementing targeted restructuring where necessary. Restructuring? William inquired. Primarily addressing operational redundancies and compliance enhancements, I explained. Thomas Mitchell has already provided valuable insights on areas requiring attention. William looked surprised. Thomas has been consulting with Eastwood? Informally, I clarified. His institutional knowledge and commitment to client-focused practices align perfectly with our vision for Harrington's future. As William signed the final page, Nathan gestured to a waiter who delivered champagne for our table. To a successful partnership, he proposed, raising his glass. Across the room, I could see Jack watching this toast with a growing alarm. He excused himself from his table and approached ours with determined strides. William, we need to talk, he interrupted. There are critical factors you should consider before proceeding with any Eastwood arrangements. William seemed taken aback by Jack's abruptness. Jack, this isn't the appropriate moment. It's exactly the appropriate moment, Jack insisted. Before you sign anything binding, there are serious concerns about Eastwood's intentions toward Harrington. Nathan regarded him coolly. Mr. Harrington, perhaps you should direct any professional concerns through proper channels rather than interrupting a private conversation. This is my firm's future at stake, Jack retorted. A future being manipulated through personal vendettas. William frowned. What are you talking about, Jack? Before Jack could respond, Thomas Mitchell approached our table. I believe I can clarify this situation, William. I've documented concerning patterns in certain client accounts that warrant immediate review by compliance. Jack paled visibly. Thomas, this isn't the venue for internal operational discussions. On the contrary, Nathan interjected smoothly. As Harrington Wealth Management's new majority owner, Eastwood Financial Group has a direct interest in any compliance concerns, particularly those involving client accounts. The words hit Jack like a physical blow. Majority owner? What are you talking about? William looked confused by Jack's reaction. Eastwood has controlled Harrington through Bridgeport Partners for over 3 years, Jack. I assumed you were aware of our ownership structure. Bridgeport. Partners is Eastwood. Jack turned to me, comprehension finally dawning. You've known this all along. It's public information for those who bother to research company structures, I replied evenly, though admittedly, not everyone performs proper due diligence before making significant decisions. The double meaning wasn't lost on Jack, whose face flushed with anger and humiliation. This is manipulation, plain and simple. You're using your position at Eastwood to orchestrate a professional hit job because of personal grievances. Nathan's expression hardened. Mr. Harrington, I suggest you moderate your tone and accusations. Eastwood's interest in Harrington Wealth Management predates any personal situations by years, and our acquisition strategy is based entirely on business fundamentals. Perhaps we should continue this discussion privately, William suggested. Clearly uncomfortable with the public confrontation. Excellent idea, Nathan agreed. Mr. Harrington, Ms. Carson, would you join us in the private dining room? Thomas, you as well. Howard, please bring the compliance documentation. As our group moved toward the private dining room, I noticed Natalie discreetly checking her phone again. Whatever game she was playing, she appeared to be receiving the confirmation she sought. In the privacy of the wood-paneled dining room, Nathan took immediate control of the conversation. Let's address the central issues directly, Mr. Harrington. Harrington Wealth Management has been an Eastwood subsidiary for over 3 years, operating under independent branding but ultimately accountable to our governance standards. Jack looked shell-shocked, his carefully constructed reality crumbling around him. This is absurd. I would have known if my own firm was owned by Eastwood. Evidently not, Nathan replied, just as you seemed unaware that redirecting clients to external investments for undisclosed referral fees constitutes a serious regulatory violation. Thomas placed a folder on the table. I've been tracking unusual patterns in over 25 client accounts under your management, Jack. Significant liquidations followed by investment redirections to entities not approved through Harrington's compliance process. William's expression darkened as he reviewed the documentation. Is this accurate, Jack? These were specialized investment opportunities for qualified clients, Jack insisted. Alternative asset allocations not requiring full compliance documentation. That's not accurate, Thomas countered. Any investment recommendation from a Harrington advisor requires full disclosure, documentation, and compliance approval, regardless of the asset class or client qualification. Ms. Carson, Nathan turned to Natalie, who had remained strategically silent. As Mr. Harrington's business partner, perhaps you could clarify the nature of these investment opportunities. Natalie hesitated, glancing between Jack and me before making her calculated decision. I believe there may have been some compliance oversights in our partnership structure. As I mentioned to Rebecca this afternoon, I've already provided full documentation of all transactions to appropriate Eastwood representatives. Jack stared at her in disbelief. You did what? Business decisions require adaptability, Jack, Natalie replied coolly. When situations change, strategies must adjust accordingly. The betrayal left Jack momentarily speechless, his confident facade completely shattered. Nathan turned to William. As Harrington's new full owner, Eastwood has both the right and responsibility to address these compliance issues immediately. We'll need to implement a management transition plan, client protection protocols, and appropriate regulatory disclosures. I understand, William agreed solemnly. I had no idea these activities were occurring. Of course not, Nathan assured him. Your reputation for integrity is precisely why we valued this acquisition. Jack finally found his voice again. This is orchestrated corporate theft disguised as compliance concerns. Rebecca is using her position at Eastwood to retaliate because she discovered I was developing an independent investment venture. Is that what you call stealing nearly $1 million from your joint savings to fund a luxury condo for Ms. Carson? Howard Marshall asked mildly. Or receiving undisclosed referral fees for directing Harrington clients to elite lifestyle management, Thomas added. Jack turned to me, desperation replacing his earlier confidence. Rebecca, you can't do this. 12 years of marriage has to count for something. It counted for everything, I replied quietly. Until you decided our life savings and wedding vows were disposable assets in your pursuit of whatever this is. I gestured between him and Natalie. Nathan cleared his throat. As fascinating as these personal elements may be, our focus must remain on Harrington Wealth Management's future and client protection. Mr. Harrington, effective immediately, your access to all Harrington systems, client accounts, and facilities is suspended pending full investigation. You can't do that, Jack protested. I'm a partner in the firm. A minority partner in a subsidiary now wholly owned by Eastwood, Howard corrected. Your partnership agreement includes standard clauses regarding ethical violations and regulatory compliance, and Ms. Carson's documentation provides comprehensive evidence of both. Jack turned to Natalie in disbelief. You're helping them destroy me? After everything we've built together? I'm protecting my own interests, Natalie replied, unapologetically. Something you should have considered before creating such obvious exposure for both of us. As Jack struggled to process this complete collapse of his position, I maintained my professional composure while experiencing a profound sense of clarity. The man I had married, whose financial judgment I had trusted implicitly, had been revealed as something entirely different. A small man with delusions of grandeur, willing to betray any loyalty for his own advancement. Rebecca will oversee Harrington's restructuring as part of her role at Eastwood, Nathan informed William. Her expertise in strategic reorganization makes her uniquely qualified to implement the necessary changes while preserving Harrington's core strengths. The irony wasn't lost on anyone in the room. Jack had stolen our savings to fund a relationship with Natalie, only to end up effectively fired by his wife from a company he hadn't even realized she controlled. 3 months later, I stood in my new corner office at Harrington Wealth Management, now officially rebranded as Eastwood Harrington Financial Advisors. The restructuring had been completed efficiently, with Thomas Mitchell promoted to Chief Operations Officer and several of Jack's allies quietly removed from the organization. The regulatory investigation had been contained through proactive self-reporting and client restitution, while most of the misappropriated funds had been recovered through legal proceedings against both Jack and Natalie. Jack himself had attempted to fight his termination, filing lawsuits that were quickly dismissed when faced with the overwhelming evidence of his misconduct. Last I'd heard, he was interviewing for mid-level positions at smaller firms in Chicago, his professional reputation permanently tarnished by the regulatory disclosures. Natalie had fared somewhat better, leveraging her cooperation into a reduced financial settlement, though she'd been forced to surrender the Ocean View condo and relocate to a more modest Los Angeles apartment. Her carefully cultivated image as a luxury lifestyle specialist had been replaced by a new narrative as a financial industry consultant. As for me, the divorce had been finalized with surprising efficiency, given Jack's weakened position and the clear evidence of financial misconduct. I had recovered most of our joint savings, though the emotional investment of 12 years remained, permanently lost. But as I looked out over Boston's skyline from my new office, I felt neither bitterness nor regret, only a calm certainty that sometimes the most painful betrayals lead to unexpected clarity and strength. Jack had spent our life savings on his mistress, never imagining he would end up working for me. The irony wasn't lost on me that in attempting to build a secret life beyond my knowledge, he had failed to understand the one he shared with me. In underestimating my capabilities, he had engineered his own downfall more thoroughly than I ever could have orchestrated alone. Sometimes justice arrives in unexpected forms, delivered not through vengeance, but through the natural consequences of one's own actions. Jack had spent our savings on his mistress, never knowing I owned his company, a truth that ultimately cost him everything he had tried to steal from me. Looking for more? We've got 2 amazing stories ready for you right on screen. If this one touched you, these are absolutely worth your time. Click to watch them now. And hey, subscribe and hit that bell to never miss our latest uploads.